We are looking at a 5,000 share order.
Hello, developers, and welcome back to DevCember week number 2. If you joined us last week, we spent our time in the terminal mastering Gemini CLI. But this week we are zooming out to look at the engine driving it all. Our theme for the week is making spirits bright and models smarter. And the timing is perfect because the ground just shifted under our feet. We are fresh off the launch of Gemini 3 and Antigravity. And if you've seen the headlines, you know that this isn't just a standard version update. With Gemini 3, we are unlocking a new tier of reasoning and multimodal capabilities that change how we approach problem solving. And with Antigravity, we're seeing a massive leap in how agents handle the heavy lifting with software development. So today we are talking about vibe coding, prototyping full interfaces from a single prompt, and building with a stack that finally feels weightless. So to break down what these launches actually mean for your 2026 roadmap, I have an absolutely stacked lineup here today. So please welcome Paige Bailey, Logan Kilpatrick, and Kevin Hou. Hey guys, how's it going? How's your holidays?
Pretty good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I love the holiday cheer. I feel like we have to comment on our sweaters today. I feel like we're kind of matching. I got the dinosaur theme. I don't know if people can see it.
Because dinosaurs are the best.
Yes.
And I've also got chrome dinosaurs on the scarf.
The chrome dinosaurs are great.
I love
Yes.
it. Yeah, mine's they're screaming at the meteor, and it's like Santa, but you know that's not good.
Excellent. And I also love the public transportation call out.
We've got some Bay Area representation.
Yep.
It lights up and you can
Oh,
on the mic.
yes.
A little bit of sound effects.
It's multimodal.
It is multimodal. It's a multimodal Christmas sweater.
And it's also incorporating both bits and atoms, which I appreciate.
Oh, wow.
We'll go to that today. How about you, Logan? How's life and the holiday season?
My less cheery take is that December, from a work perspective, is one of the worst months of the year because we've been trying to fit 2 months of work into like 2 working weeks. So we've got, even this week and next week, we've got lots of stuff in the pipeline, which is super exciting. And I'm sure across Antigravity and other products, trying to get in the last features before folks head off for the holidays. So I'm excited for all of that to be over and to actually enjoy the sort of cheer of the holidays.
Yeah.
Yes, I think many of our teams deserve a little bit of a break later this year at the end of the month, really. So thanks for joining today. And thank you to everybody on the live stream. Some folks are saying, hey, are they going to actually comment on the YouTube live streamers this time? I'm like, we did that last time. I can see everyone tuning in from India, from SF. People are super excited. People are like, woo, Gemini is the GOAT. Hello from London. So just want to say hi. And also people are calling out our ugly sweaters, which I'm like, these are not
Ugly.
that ugly.
They're not ugly.
I think they're okay. But anywho, just want to say hi to everyone coming in today. So today we are talking about Gemini 3 and Antigravity. And I mean, it's just been an absolute just launch rocket here at Google, as you just mentioned, Logan. Some of the headlines here, I mean, I think everyone's seen the benchmarks already when it comes to Gemini 3. But just to kind of cover them one more time, if you take a look at my screen here, we have just like the wild performance here over for some of the benchmarks like humanities last exam. We have 37.5% for Gemini 3 Pro, which is about a 16% jump from Gemini 2.5 Pro. And then I do love this graph on Arc AGI 2. We're kind of in our own world over here with Gemini 3 and Gemini 3 DeepSync. So I always find it interesting just to see all this displayed out here like this. But I mean, just to see it in action more so, I feel like it's nice to contextualize it. I think a lot of folks, including yourself, Logan, have been talking about its nuanced understanding of the world and native multimodal capabilities. So some of my favorite examples here from our user community is the ability to kind of take napkin drawings or blueprints and really bring them to life in this way with a 3D rendered visualization in 4K. Another example here is the ability to two-shot create a simulation of a nuclear power plant here, and it's interactive. And then this one, which really blew my mind, is the ability to generate 3D interactive games with 3JS, and you can move the particles with your hands using camera input. And they have a tutorial here as well. So just some really cool stuff that we're going to dive into. Logan, can you tell us from your perspective, what's the TLDR on Gemini 3 and what can you actually build with it?
Yeah, I love these. I love these demos from the community. When we were sort of cooking Gemini 3, something that we were pushing for as folks sort of got their hands on the model was this idea, this like tagline, which you may have seen show up a bunch of different places, which Gemini 3 helps you bring anything to life. And I think actually these are three great examples, Stephanie, of like that being true. And I don't know if folks can see my screen yet, but I took you were showing some of the demos, or you were showing some of the eval benchmarks. So I took a screenshot of the blog post. I threw it into AI Studio using Gemini 3, and I said, take the screenshot and turn this sort of like normal eval chart into an interactive visualization to be able to see all the different data. And this was two shots. I added some additional features in the second shot. And you can just see like way more interactive. I can sort of filter the different benchmarks depending on all this stuff. So a great way, again, to like bring something to life that like otherwise was like pretty basic in its understanding. And this is a great like example of the fusion of multimodal capabilities, the like nuanced reasoning understanding the model has, its ability to write code, all three of those things coming together in a single example, which is really, really cool.
Amazing. Yeah, and I've seen just so many folks really do more single shot prompting with things like this for vibe coding. So what really enables that jump? I feel like there's just more reasoning capabilities built in this time around.
Yeah, I think, and you sort of saw this transition. I think we launched the first thinking model actually probably about a year ago, and it was a Flash reasoning model that sort of spent a bunch of time thinking before it answered. And I think as you see that sort of models spend more time thinking, or hopefully not more time, but like they become more efficient with their thinking as well, you start to be able to abdicate a lot more of the responsibility to the model to like sort of figure out the nuance. Historically, you would spend like, to get this level of output from Gemini 2.5 Pro or one of the previous models, like maybe would have been possible, but my prompt would have been like, 3 pages, and it would have been many, many iterations and many shots. And now I can sort of just like truly give my vibe representation of what I want. And the model does a really great job of sort of understanding what I'm trying to do and then reasoning through it. And I think, Kevin, we'll see this in Antigravity as well, but you can actually double click in and like see what the models are actually going through as they're putting this together. So like lots of nuance, lots of data. The model's thinking through how to best structure data, finding all the right details, thinking about the different ways of visualizing the content. So for a whole 30 seconds, which was much longer than I spent thinking about this, it was cool to see this example come to life.
Well, the other thing that I feel like a lot of folks have been talking about is the multimodality aspect of it, which is something we've talked about with our previous versions and releases of models too. This time around, however, it seems like you can dump even just more context, and it really has this native understanding. So what's like the wildest thing that you've seen someone throw into the context window and be able to just tackle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did this yesterday with a bunch of videos and screenshots. I think maybe I'll reframe slightly, Stephanie, which is I think the thing that's most exciting to me is this fusion of multimodal understanding and generation. So I think we launched Gemini 3. Gemini 3 is awesome. It's really good at coding and things like that. But we also dropped Nano Banana Pro, which is based on the Gemini 3 model. So in the AI Studio app sort of gallery, we have a bunch of examples of Amara and our team built like this comic book generator, which uses Nano Banana Pro to sort of put him and our other designer Chanel into like this really intricate comic book scenario, which is really cool. The other one that's obviously been going viral are these infographics. So I think these are really unique things where, again, you fuse understanding and generation together in a way that wasn't possible before, and you can really generate some cool stuff.
Amazing. The other thing that I feel like we're really seeing with this release is the prototype to production window really collapsing and shortening. So what is the first thing that you think a developer should try to really see the potential of Gemini 3? Or maybe you can show us another example.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm happy to show another example. Let me look. This was one that I was making the other day based on a suggestion from someone, which is they wanted like a personal dashboard. They wanted to be able to sort of wake up every day and sort of have a single place that they can look at to sort of get all the information that they're excited about. So I put in this prompt, which was I did our Yap to app, which is I did audio and it sort of transcribed all my audio and then turned it into a usable prompt. And you can zoom out here. and see just like the breadth of all the different things that are happening. This one is an example of I was too ambitious, and the like default rate limit doesn't let me send 20 parallel continuous requests. But it's actually grounding all this data, the pollen count based on my location, the UV index, traffic and commute, headlines, events, trending online information. I show this example to show one of the things that I'll make one more Gemini 3 comment and then answer your question, Stephanie, about like going to production with this. I'm constantly having to remind myself that I need to be more ambitious with this model. I think by default, historically, if you're using AI models a lot, you're like, oh, let me sort of, give the minimal amount of instruction possible. I won't ask for too much. I don't want to be too greedy. I don't want to sort of push the model to do more than it like basically has to. And I think with Gemini 3, I'm constantly like, no, do more. Like you need to push further. You need to go and like, don't just add 2 things, add 10 things. And the model just crushes it. So I think that's the sort of, the prototype experience in AI Studio. And then if you actually want to deploy to production, you potentially could. And we're also working with Kevin and the Antigravity team on the ability to sort of directly go from like a working example inside of AI Studio and then take it into Antigravity and continue to develop it locally in an IDE or an agent manager, depending on which you want. So I'm super excited for that as well. Hopefully that lands early next year. So we got to make it happen, Kevin.
Very exciting.
That'll get done.
That workflow is going to just really supercharge, I think, everyone here. Just a couple of comments from the live stream so I can bring it in here. Gemini 3 separate agentic IDE is the best. I assume they're talking about Antigravity.
Yep.
So
Love that.
Love that. Tomorrow is now. Mic drop. I think that's already.
You need a T-shirt that says "Tomorrow is now." I feel like that. Actually, Kevin, that could be a good anti. I don't know if you all have a tagline, but that could.
We
be
could
a
use
good
some T-shirts. That's not bad.
What's on your shirt today, Logan? You had something cool.
Big model smell. Yeah. I was deciding between big model smell and bring anything to life. So I won out with big model smell today, just because it's more comfortable than the bring anything to life.
Comfort is key. Okay, well, Paige, just speaking of the potential that I think people can really start to see and use their creativity for, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, so we're going to be walking through kind of similar to what Logan just showed, the Yap to App feature in AI Studio, in addition to how you can deploy the app to Google Cloud using Cloud Run, and also save it to GitHub repos, either public or private ones, so you can work within an Antigravity. So it should be pretty fun to see.
Okay, super excited. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So here I am in AI Studio. If folks haven't seen it before, you can access it at ai.dev or ai.studio, or get to it via aistudio.google.com. You can configure some of the settings for the apps that you create. So if you click this little settings box, you can see over here off to the right, a place to configure the model. And of course, we're going to be choosing Gemini 3 Pro Preview. You can add system instructions for different libraries, different SDKs, different features you might want to add. And you can also toggle between Angular or React for the app that you want to create. And then to build an app, you can just kind of click this microphone or type in information, and you're a little bit off to the races. And for this one, I'm going to be super ambitious. So we'll see, I always like to try as many things as I can to see if we can trigger Gemini's autofix to try to fix itself. But let's go ahead and get started. So create an app that builds a Santa tracker for us to visualize Santa's journey across the world on Christmas night. Make sure that we can see kind of all of the locations displayed and configured as a globe. Make sure that we can see Santa's sleigh as he goes from one location to another, and also give the user the ability to add the location and add the gift that they want, so they can add it to the list that Santa goes to each time. Also make sure that after each present gets delivered, we use, how about Imagine, the Imagine model to show Santa delivering the gift to the person's name.
Paige, I love this so much because if not for nothing other than not having to fumble through writing prompts in live demos, the Yap to Apps works so well from that perspective.
Absolutely. And then also, like, just for bonus points, I'm going to say, after this gets done, I'm going to try to use Gemini TTS, and we'll try to make Santa like actually say ho 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 or something similar. But after we kind of create this prompt, you can see it added to AI Studio. You can expand out the thinking section so you can understand a little bit what Gemini is reasoning through as it's building the app itself, what it's kind of considering in terms of libraries to import. You can also see this place on the right where you can save to a public or a private repo on GitHub after the app gets generated. You can save the repository locally as well. And we also have the ability for you to add files. So if you click on this plus sign, you can see the files. You can upload screenshots if you want to mimic a UI. You can upload text files or PDFs if you want to ground the app's creation on those, or CSVs, all sorts of different things. And we can also see the code getting generated off to the right. So it looks like we're adding some components. We've already got the Gemini TypeScript file created. It's adding some stylistic things for the globe itself. So I'm excited to see how this actually turns out. And then as all of the files get generated, they get it put into this really, really nice directory structure. So you can kind of see the app get organized along the way. We also have a really cool annotation feature down here on the text box as well, where once the app gets visualized, if you wanted to kind of highlight something, circle it, say, I don't like this button design, I want something else, or I want a button here, or I want to move this to this other direction, you can make all of that work. And this experience is really nice in the sense that it gives you a prototype very, very quickly without you having to think through all of the math, all of the grounding, and all of the visualization components that would be required for creating this app. Like, just to be honest, I wouldn't even know the first place to start if I wanted to build a Santa tracker. Fun fact, the first Santa tracker that we had at Google was based on a Google Sheets instance that was just tracking Santa along the way. But
Look how far we've come.
Yes, but this clearly is a better like North Pole command. So let's see how it goes. Paige wants a Pixel Watch, and I live in San Francisco. And let's add this to Santa's. Wow. Well, oh no! So it looks like there might have been an image generation fail. One thing that we can do. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so it's easier to see. One thing that we can do is say, looks like the image generation failed. Could you please fix? And then we'll use our annotation tool. I'll circle this and add it to the chat so we can see how well this works.
And one thing to add is, like, this is very much, I love when these demos don't work these days, because it very much is the vibe coding experience. Like 100%. Things aren't going to work, and like knowing what your toolkit is in order to like keep iterating, I feel like is so important. So
I 100% agree. I also love that if you expand out the thinking traces off to the left as well, you can see Gemini kind of go through the process of pinpointing like, oh, okay. I've understood that this is calling, it's explicitly using this model, but it's not using it in the correct path. And so being able to kind of think through, all right, well, you know, here's the file that should be modified, or here's the model that should be changed in order to get the app to function correctly, is really, really cool. And it means that you don't have to kind of figure out where to navigate in the code base as well to make those changes, because Gemini can help you find it along the way. I think this is also really cool for things like legacy code bases, because they're often so complex that it's really, really challenging to understand where to go in order to get the right information, or to understand where the functions are being called. So let's see how it modifies the Gemini TypeScript file along the way. So Pixel Watch, San Francisco, and we'll see. So it looks like, oh no, so it looks like Santa's Pixel Watch is still failing. Let's try again. So maybe like make the image generation generic and only show Santa dropping off the present at the house. Like maybe it's trying to find, you know, who is Paige, or like try to figure out like what to make the image look like. You can also sometimes see in the bottom part of the UI, the places where the errors get logged, but for whatever reason, this one's not getting logged. So this is a pretty interesting bug to see.
So the agent has access to the UI
Yes, it should.
and the logs and everything like that.
Yeah,
Not the UI right now, not the UI. You have to manually port the context over from the UI.
yeah.
That's anti-gravity magic you're talking about, Kevin.
Yeah.
I like the annotation stuff. That's awesome.
The annotation features are very cool. And sometimes you can see errors displayed in the bottom logging section, especially for things where it misfires the model. But for whatever reason, this one is being a little bit finicky. So let's try.
And if this doesn't work, Paige, I have another suggestion that will fix this.
Yeah.
So.
I also have one that we tried a little while ago.
If you click AI features, if you go back there really quick, if you click AI features, it should let you stuff the context window with a bunch of information. It's usually like the model doesn't know how to call our API. Yeah, and then if you do Nano Banana or Imagine or something like that, it like re-adds a bunch of context to the context window about how to make a successful.
I love this.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's try again.
This is good. This is like
Never-
real world stuff.
Well,
I love it.
it's nice to see how you iterate, right? Because you're also trying to understand and think through, what do I need to change in my interaction? Because maybe it's making certain decisions, and you're kind of also investigating yourself alongside with the data that it provides too.
100%. It also might be, so I noticed that this is using a child name, and it might, because we do have responsible best practices kind of configured for some of our models, it might not want to incorporate that into the image output itself. But we will see.
And one thing that I will mention is, like, just with the ability to continue to add to the context, I feel like the context window is now the new desktop.
Yeah.
Your context window is now no longer really based on just tokens. It's measured in the possibilities. So now you can drop a massive code base, a 300-page PDF file, a UI design video into the model, and it just treats them all as this single problem.
100%.
I'd actually be curious, Logan, what do you, when you opened up that sidebar and there were a bunch of power-ups, walk us through like what that is. That's awesome.
So the power-ups are basically kind of pre-configured settings that you can incorporate into the app. So Logan first showed kind of like the gallery feature where you can see some of the apps that the team has created. It also walks through all of the different model configurations that would be required for the apps. And there's also a really cool I'm feeling lucky button in AI Studio where you can sort of have an app idea created for you on the fly, and it incorporates many of these building blocks as well to help make sure that the app that gets generated is actually like invoking the correct models.
And I love that because it's kind of like it's bringing this googliness into it. It's like, oh, it's Google search results, but in this case, it's an app.
Yep, absolutely. So let's see.
Stephanie, one of the things you mentioned about this like context window being the desktop, I think the interesting thread of this, and Kevin, I think this actually threads to anti-gravity as well, is what you have to do in the world where the context window is the desktop, which is like historically and I'm guilty of this. My desktop is like a bunch of crap that I've just thrown out there and I don't often refer to. And with the context window, you actually do need to do some management because you don't want your context window being like clouded by a bunch of stuff. And this has actually been one of the reasons we're so excited to have the anti-gravity coding agent power sort of the next version of AI Studio vibe coding, is because we're sort of just doing the easy approach right now, which is like everything is in the context window, which doesn't work in a lot of cases. The model gets confused. It's like, why do I see all this extra stuff? So I think, Kevin, on anti-gravity, you all are doing like a lot of this context window optimization through like multi-turn conversations and stuff like that.
Totally.
Correctly.
Yeah. One of the really interesting, I guess, fringe frontier areas that we've been investing in is context stuffing and what to include and what to omit. I think something interesting is as models have gotten better, we've evolved from the point of kind of heuristically saying, oh, this is interesting, this is not interesting, to the agent now deciding, actually, I'm kind of done with this task. I can just kind of throw away that part of my memory. And that really helps it, kind of focus on what's important and keep that context very pure.
Yeah,
I love that.
It kind of offloads a little bit more of that decision making onto the model.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's been kind of the theme with, Logan, we've seen this over the last couple of years. Like, as models get better, you can sort of offload more and more of these sorts of human decisions instead of checking all the bits of context that you would want. Now it's automatic. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also really, really love that for Antigravity, it takes care of some of the more kind of back-end component features. So like as an example, as we're building this app right now, it's not necessarily incorporating things like databases. It doesn't really have access to some of the things that are not, available through the AI Studio interface. So it looks, and so with Antigravity, it might be able to kind of fix some of these bugs or fix some of these issues without necessarily sort of needing to rely only on the AI Studio toolkit to make
Paige,
it.
I love this example. I honestly am so curious to find out why this is failing, because these are actually the exact type of examples that you can usually self-recover from. I wonder if there's some weird logic in what it's doing, like Santa was too fast. I wonder if it's actually trying to like generate the image when you kick off moving from the North Pole to San Francisco, and then it just like cancels out because it's only giving it like 2 seconds or something like that.
I think that's probably right, because to your point, image generation usually takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do the special delivery. But let's go ahead and pull up one of the. It was able to successfully add. That I got a Pixel Watch, or at least I'm hoping I get a Pixel Watch in the future. I did one a little bit earlier today, actually, this North Pole Command Center with mission control. And so you can select different city names. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so it might be a little bit easier to see. Something to deliver, so maybe like a red bicycle, add it to the route. Mumbai, maybe a sort of MacBook Pro, and add it to the route. London, maybe something like a stuffed bear, and add it. And then you can kind of launch the sleigh and see it move over time. I didn't add image generation for this one, but it is really nice to be able to see Santa's sleigh moving from one location to another. And to be able to have it track the flight log along the way.
See, this Santa's moving so slow, Paige. I feel like we would have been able to generate an image in time.
Well, like he is moving at pace, though, if he's able to cross continents in a single bound. But I agree with you. Like this is, I also really love that it added kind of the falling snow. And the reindeer readiness features down towards the bottom. So this is super playful. But one of the cool things is that you can save this to a GitHub repo. So maybe we say Santa Tracker and Santa Global Tracker for deliveries at Christmas. Make it public, and then create a Git repo. So this is, let me try again. So Santa Tracker v2, and we'll see if it creates the repository. Yep. And so YOLO, stage and commit all changes. And we should have a Santa Tracker that's been added to my GitHub for folks to be able to look at and to refer to. We can also deploy this on Google Cloud. So if I select one of my projects, verify the project and click Deploy App, it's also able to give me a unique URL for Cloud Run that anybody could go to access the app itself. And also shows some really interesting insights about the deployment. So things like all of the cloud logs that might be associated, the storage, et cetera. One of the coolest things that that has been recently added to AI Studio, at least in my estimation, is the logging feature. So as you deploy things within AI Studio, as you deploy apps that leverage our APIs, rather, you can see kind of the JSON style logs associated, the different kind of triggers and models that they're using for all of the different features that you've added. And I really love seeing this and being able to kind of configure, like, I want to see all of the sort of specific models. So maybe I want to see Gemini 2.5 flashlight or 2.0 flashlight. I want to see the status, so which ones failed and which ones didn't. And why. So being able to understand some of these things that I might want to put ultimately in evals. And all of this is available within the AI Studio interface. The usage and billing is also super cool to see. In addition to the number of requests per day, the rate limits, to be able to spot if you're about to hit any rate limits. So apparently I've been over consuming my VO3 fast. And then also the billing associated, so how much I consume each day through AI Studio deployments.
Well, on this topic, I think there have been a few questions coming in about generally if folks can get started for free on AI Studio, and I'm sure with Gemini 3. So what do we tell folks here?
Yeah, Logan, like you wanna cover the billing? We definitely you can get started with AI Studio for free, especially with some of our earlier days models.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%. What you were seeing Paige demo and I demo, like, is the actual AI Studio experience. It's not some like special version. I think Paige has probably has a paid API key which she used to deploy to Cloud Run and stuff like that. The way that the like general framing is, most of AI Studio is free. If you want certain models like Nano Banana or VO, you do need to put in a paid API key. And then at some point, like, you'll hit your limits depending on like how much of a pro user you are, and you can keep building if you also put an API key. Same thing with like deploying to Cloud Run, put in an API key. Should be easy to set up, and we're doing more to continue to make it easier for folks. So hopefully it is definitely free to get started. And yeah,
cool.
Free to use.
All right.
I also wanted to, I just noticed, though I haven't tested this just yet, there's a little button off to the right, and I'm very curious what it does.
Yeah.
I had previously asked for Santa's voice, so they will, like maybe whenever it does a delivery, Santa says something. And if not, then I will just be sad.
It's funny, like even when we were building last week using Gemini CLI, we also had an app where it was like save to cloud in the top. We're like, oh, it added that option,
which is amazing. Like, and I think there's a ton of really interesting features with voice mode that can also be enabled with the Gemini APIs, both through text to speech as well as through the Gemini Live API.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions from the live stream that I'll just quickly mention, and then I'd love to move on to see Antigravity. Just generally, I think folks are just curious, is it possible to prompt things like, can I add an Apache 2.0 license to my build in AI Studio? Just generally, can they add licenses, and it'd be able to kind of orient around that?
So you can actually, if you click the code button and you move over to the File Explorer section, there's a plus sign where you can upload files. So if you did want to incorporate your own license, if you wanted to add files or features that might exist in other places, or if you push to GitHub, a teammate modifies the app and you want to incorporate those changes back into the main app, you can add files, create new folders within the AI Studio interface.
Okay, nice. And okay, we have a question from Ricardo. What happens if in real life the Santa's plan changes at the last minute? Will the results auto adjust in real time?
Well, that's it's a good question. Like, it's one thing that we could add is like an intelligent router for Santa. So we could say something like observe all of the different locations that have been added and make sure that you have the fastest path from one location to another, kind of like the traveling salesman problem. We could say, we could add a stop button. So like if Santa wanted to change his plans at the last minute, maybe he found out that there were pretty epic cookies available in Tasmania or something similar, then he could do that. And it's just a matter of asking for those changes in the app. So, so maybe I'll say like add an intelligent router and a stop button for Santa's sleigh trajectory, and then send the prompt, and we'll see how it modifies the app.
Nice.
After, and then Kevin can, after Kevin's section, we can take a
All
look
right,
again
we'll
and see
come
what
back
does.
to it.
Yep.
I think a lot of folks got a lot of questions already about anti-gravity, so I think everyone's really excited to see it. So love that we're building more streamlined workflows between AI Studio and anti-gravity, but for folks who don't know what anti-gravity is, maybe you could just quickly talk about it and show us.
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a demo, taking an iteration of Santa Tracker that you put together this weekend, bringing that over to anti-gravity and seeing what we can do and dig into the code. So anti-gravity is, I like to say, like an IDE plus a bit more. If you can see my screen here, this is your traditional, editor I've cloned. So to answer some questions that we saw online, you can take, what Paige put up on GitHub and clone that locally. And now all of a sudden, I have the code that was generated from AI Studio inside of Antigravity. But what's really cool here is Antigravity is actually multiple different surfaces. And so there's a button up here called Open Agent Manager. And Logan alluded to this earlier. But this is really an agent-first kind of IDE dev experience. And so what you're seeing here is actually a separate window where if we close up our IDE, we can actually just keep this running in the background and work with the Santa tracker in sort of a cleaner, more focused interface. So to start, to just show you just how cleanly this sort of hop over works, we're going to start a new conversation for this Santa tracker. And we're just going to say, run this project and open in the browser. And this sort of brings up the third surface, which is we integrated Chrome into anti-gravity, so that similar to how you could have screenshots and stuff like that, the agent can actually decide, hey, I want to look at kind of a live share of what you're seeing inside of Chrome. And so here it's doing its research, it's trying to figure out how to run this. It's asking us for permission to run npm run dev, which is the way that you would or I presume the way that you would run this sort of application. And it's asking us for that approval, right? Because we want to make sure that the experience that you have executing commands AI is not perfect. We want to make sure that that experience stays safe. And you can see the thought traces and all this sort of thing. So really dig into the actual chain of thought and the actual steps that the agent is taking. We give that to you front and center. And then we can also see
Kevin, really quick, this loading animation on the right-hand side is my favorite thing. So whoever made this loading animation, send them a G thanks on my behalf. Every time I see it, I'm like, this is cool. This is cool.
Yeah, this animation's awesome. We've always played with like little fun, kind of animations like that. Let's see. So we have a browser here, and I'm just gonna open the browser. It might have gotten a little bit confused.
And Kevin, while you're doing this, I have a question, and I'm curious. I don't mean this as a loaded question. What's the like product thinking or the approach for the anti-gravity team between like having multiple windows? Like, is there some like technical advantage you get, or the idea is eventually like you'll actually merge all three of these things into the same interface, or is there like a technical reason why it's helpful to have like Chrome as a separate entity versus just putting like a web, interface inside of the agent manager or the IDE?
Yeah. I think part of this, we're trying to figure this out. Antigravity is a new product. What's been interesting is seeing just how differently people use the product. So for example, I am personally more of a multi-window person. And so I like to have the agent manager up on one side. I like to have kind of a split view between that and the browser, and then I have my editor kind of front and center. We have some users who basically just do, I think I've seen people do this, where this goes on this half, this goes on this half, and they couldn't care less about the editor. And then you have some people that just, honestly, they don't want to use the agent manager and for their synchronous work, and so what they'll do is fire off a background task. And then they'll close this window and they'll be in the editor. And the beauty of this is we tried to make this as seamless of an experience as possible. So you can just Command E and hop back and forth between the editor, what you're working on, and the agent manager. So there are a variety of ways that you can use this.
I also love that if you're a multi-monitors person, you can kind of mix and match and move them around, which is really, really hard to do with just a single browser window.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So let's see. So it opened up the browser and it ran the project for us. And what we're seeing here, oh no, it wants to, we're not going to reopen the thing again. But what you're seeing here is it ran the app, and then if we hop over, it actually took a screenshot to basically let us know sort of what this app does. And very similar to your product, we can kind of comment and do stuff like this and give that feedback back to the model. But now that we've actually run this thing, and it seems like it's built up some context over how to run this project, we can start a new conversation, and we're going to head over back to our sidebar, start a new conversation, and now we're going to do a feature. And it's kind of like the I'm feeling lucky type of thing. So add a surprise gift. We should really implement a yap and forget feature that uses your current location. So we'll try and use the Chrome API for this, for the destination, and a surprise present from a list of 100 different options that are popular in 2025. Populate the input so the user can press add stop. And then we're also going to have it screen record the feature once you're done and show me in a walkthrough.
I love this.
So let's kick this off, and I'm going to use high here because we're ambitious.
Yeah.
Also, I wonder if it's going to pick what is it called, the Yububu or
Well, let's see. So what I'm hoping it does, and once you get familiar with sort of what the agent can do, you build an intuition over. I added in 2025 because I was like, oh, I would love to see it web search. Like, I would love to see it use Chrome, use Google, and like actually look up maybe some Wirecutter magazine articles and stuff like that. So we'll see what it does there. But I did want to take some time to show you sort of what's happening on the right side and left side. So you'll notice that this experience is very different from what you would use inside of your editor. So if you're in the editor, you're kind of used to looking at your files, you're looking at a sidebar conversation, and the sidebar here is a little bit more granular. It's a little bit more synchronous. It's for when you're actually kind of iterating back and forth with the agent. When you're in the agent manager, it's a bit higher level. So what it's done here is it's done all this research. We can, of course, look into the actual tasks that it did if we felt like we needed to. But then it puts together what's called an implementation plan. We call these artifacts. And on the right side, you'll see a list of all the different artifacts. And in this case, we have two. One is a task list, so kind of a way for the agent to sort of stay focused and communicate to the user what it's going to do. And then you have something called an implementation plan, which at the start of a new feature, if it deems it helpful, it will put together a plan and call out some things that you might need to answer, so questions that you might need to answer, its proposed changes, how it plans on verifying this application. And we took inspiration from Google Docs. So it says the feature relies on the browser geolocation API. Okay. I will stick with a simple alert for now. I'll be like, yeah, that sounds great. All right. Popular GIFs, 100 string representations of popular GIFs, and I'll just tell it to do a quick Google search.
I have
Kevin,
to
I
say,
have a
I think
quick
this is
question.
one of my favorite features. Sorry, Logan, go ahead. I was just showing my.
Sorry, Stephanie. I miss Google Meet where I can raise my hand so that
I was just saying, I think this is one of my favorite features. Like, everyone loves the browser feature as well, but I feel like for me and my workflow, this is super helpful to just understand the tasks that are going to be implemented and what the thinking is behind the plan that it's proposing. And the fact that you can interact with it via this interface is so intuitive.
Exactly. Yeah, we tried to, when you're able to work in sort of an agent first, and we've been calling Antigravity a very agent first experience, when you're able to strip away a lot of the other things that might distract you, right? If you compare this window to this window, we're able to focus less on the files and the code and pull you one level above, which is artifacts. And the beauty of artifacts is that the agent will decide what's important for you. And just kind of a stream of consciousness, if you may. And it'll just let you know like the information that you need to know so that you can kind of just focus and really simplify the amount of brain space that you need to get your change done.
It's also one step closer to this idea of having a PRD immediately translate into product features.
Exactly.
And being able to kind of make a modification to the PRD and immediately see it expressed as part of the code base.
Right.
Exactly.
Logan, what were you going to add?
Yeah, this was like a personal question. Actually, Stephanie, I'm curious from your perspective as well. But Kevin, how often do you find yourself actually changing the plan that the agent comes up with? Is it like it really for you is like this continual iterative process versus like, you just kind of see what it's doing and then just let it go off and, trust its judgment?
Yeah, yeah. So we have different modes. We have a mode that is more of a turbo mode. You just kind of let it go, and I will auto approve everything that you put across my desk. I personally strike the balance. I have the auto mode on, which is the agent will decide if there's something, I guess in this case, because this was deemed important, it was saying, oh, if something errors, like what do you want me to do? I had to give it an answer, and so therefore it took a second to breathe and let me know, can you provide some feedback? In my day-to-day, I find that I actually use the commenting feature quite a bit because Google is a pretty large code base. The Antigravity code base is also large within that, and so you've got years and years of code that you need to parse through. Being able to have the confidence at the plan level, at the research phase, before you invest, both tokens and time, and some level of your attention after that point to do something incorrect is maybe a little bit of a waste of time. That being said, I am guilty of, I will fire off the same task like a couple times.
Yeah.
And then if something fails, you just pick the one that kind of worked.
Right.
So there's a little bit of randomness in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. Like I use it as a confidence tracker too, as well. It's like I want to see the plan and really confirm that that's the plan that I want to go with. But I have iterated by commenting on it directly as well. So I would say it's more just gut check and then proceed.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like it just finished, and now it put together a walkthrough. I'm gonna see. Oh, so it is also giving me notifications. I don't know if we've been able to catch this on the stream, but every time that it's saying that there's something for me to review or something that is complete, it will give me an OS level notification. So here it said, all right, you're done. Here's our walkthrough. And now what a walkthrough is a different type of artifact. And this is something that happens at the end. So this is the way that I verify and just check that something is working. So if I go through this, we'll see not only is it telling me the actual changes it made, but it's also telling me the screenshots. So it's able to record using the feature. And let's see. Oh, it looks like it was waiting for, so it's clicking the button. I don't know if you can see this, and I can blow this up a bit more. But that little blue dot is like the agent actually actuating on top of Chrome. It's quite a magical experience when you're using it. And it'll press surprise gift, and it looks like, all right, we're in Fremont. It's a little bit off, but we're in the Bay Area, and it's giving me a lofty smart alarm clock. So yeah, heck, surprise gift. Let's add that stop. We can do this one more time. Surprise gift. Let's see. Okay, now it thinks we're in Santa Clara, so maybe the API, but Pokemon. Okay, sure. Let's change this to New York just so we see a little bit more. And then let's go ahead and start that delivery route. Looks like Santa's doing his thing. Going over.
And could
Santa was following the curvature of the Earth there. And
Yeah, I
not
know, exactly.
the direct line is what it looked like.
Yep.
That's smart.
And also, is your audio on? I remember there was one sort of. Yeah,
Oh.
there we go.
Oh, there we go.
It says ho ho ho, but no.
I love it.
But this was the one that I made last week. And
Love it.
so-
This is awesome. Well, so we have a nice little Polaroid, little AI generated disclaimer. This is not a real picture of Santa Claus delivering your new lofty
It's
alarm
not?
clock.
Wait,
No, you
what?
know. Like,
Next stop. So, I mean, this is awesome.
yeah.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
sound. We
yeah.
love that. Deliver present.
Yep.
No, it's quite immersive.
One of the things that you talked about earlier, Kevin, is just the analogy between the floor versus raising the ceiling.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
There we go. Yeah, so I guess with Antigravity, what we wanted to do, and this goes back to a little bit of why we integrated a browser, why we did an agent manager. We felt that there was so much more capability to unlock that editors today, agents today weren't touching. And one of that is this vat of knowledge that is available to you personally and also your organization. And so if you're thinking about, as a coder, there's sort of the, like it's like the literal code that I'm writing, but then there's all the context that goes into making that decision. And then every engineer can relate to this, where you start a task and then while you're implementing, you sort of discover that there's something else that maybe you hadn't taken into consideration, or you need to ask a teammate. And so we've taken inspiration from this and said, all right, we want to give our agent access to that wealth of knowledge via the browser. So the browser can now go to Google Docs. It can now go to your your Google Cloud dashboards and actually view your billing, your usage, your rate limits, all this sort of thing. And so all that information now becomes part of what the agent can access. So it can read and then also make changes. So if you said, deploy my application, it would know to go to Google Cloud, it would know to click on this button here, and it can act as sort of an assistant in that way. So that's one of the really exciting things. It is a very multimodal product experience, and one that hopefully just pushes that ceiling of what agents are capable of doing for software engineers and non-technical folks, people who are technically adjacent. And what's really cool is that, as you can see, it sort of unlocks all these capabilities for folks who are maybe new to programming. And they come in and they bring their project from AI Studio, and suddenly they're able to do things that they've never done before inside of Antigravity. So we're really in the business of kind of giving everyone this sort of magical experience, but then also really pushing the ceiling of what the agent is capable of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It has for me, for sure. The other concept that I love is moving from local to remote. Can you talk a little bit about what that means for developers?
Sure. Local to remote in what sense exactly?
So this shift meaning that Antigravity can operate using the full context of someone's local environment. So a developer can operate almost like remotely in that sense.
Yes. Yeah. So there are a couple of components of this. One, we made this decision to be on your machine. This gives you access to your files, your environments. Here, it's able to determine that I have NPM installed. It's able to store memories locally, like it can retrieve what version of Python I'm running, or maybe based on other projects, what tendencies I have. So there's certain strengths of being directly inside of the local environment. What's really neat is because of this agent manager experience, you're able to, as you can see, I don't have the editor up here. And so what I'm doing is kind of asking the agent to do something sort of in the background. And I can operate as if it's more of a background agent, almost like a remote agent, where even if my computer goes to sleep, it will kind of keep going, and it will let me know when it needs my attention. And in that way, you can have this local, remote sort of pattern.
Yeah. It's a very different style of working. I'm cognizant that we only have a couple of minutes left, so I wanted to just bring it back. Paige, did you want to revisit yours, or do you want to just kind of wrap up and see where things are at?
Yeah, well, we can sort of see what has changed with the app that we just created. So an intelligent router and a stop button for Santa's sleigh trajectory, kind of similar to what we saw before. If we add the red bicycle. So it looks like the stop's been added, maybe a smartwatch, and then optimize the route. It should be able to figure out where Santa should go for the thing. But it's really interesting to kind of see the different routes get created, and then also the different places get added along the way. Yeah.
One of the comments from the live stream was, Paige doesn't give up. I love it. So thank you for iterating on the fly during the live stream to all three of you.
It's all good. And one of the nice things is, to Logan's point, that if you just keep kind of iterating over and over with the apps that you build, usually they're able to kind of recover or to figure out what goes wrong to resolve themselves.
Well, we have seen the spectrum today from Paige, Logan, showing us how Gemini 3 allows us to vibe code entire games in seconds. And then Kevin, you showed us how anti-gravity agents can autonomously navigate the web. So in one sentence from all three of you, what's the best way a developer should get started, or what should they try out? So maybe Logan, let's start with you.
I only have one sentence, so I have to use it wisely. I mean, I would really just bring anything to life. Like, I think whatever the idea is, or whatever the really quick example that I'll give is like a receipt. Taking a receipt, dropping it into AI Studio or Antigravity, and just saying, bring this to life. I think we'll prove this point of the model is just so capable at coming up with stuff on the fly. So iterate and sort of find a way to wield that magic in an interesting way.
Nice. Okay, Paige, how about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most magical things about the Gemini models themselves is that we're the only model that can kind of intake video and images and audio and text and code all at once. but then also output multiple modalities. So in that sense, we're trying to kind of break down everything that you could see, that you could interact with. I'm really, really excited about the potential of our models being able to interact with the physical world. So our robotics team is incorporating Gemini Live to help orchestrate many robotic actions. We see people being able to use it. You mentioned the kind of 3JS experiment where you can have a person as effectively the joystick navigating a game. So I'm really, really excited to see more real-world applications of these models as we move outside of the browser or outside of just the digital space.
Moving from bits to atoms, as you say.
Yep.
All right, Kevin, how about you?
Man, I was going to go with something short and sweet, which is look to be surprised.
Ew.
Yep.
Like that.
I love it.
Yep.
It's very on theme with Logan's as well. Well, to all three of you, thank you so much for spending your time and showing us the newness with Gemini 3 and Antigravity. Thank you to everyone on the live stream for tuning in as well. And join us next Tuesday for week 3 of December, where we will be discussing Gen Media. So until then, happy coding and see everyone. Happy holidays.